All right, all right. Good evening and welcome to the March 11th, 2020, the City of Shoreacres City Council. Ms. Goodwin, will you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mayor,
Present.
Pro-Tem Mayor McCollum,
Present.
Alderwoman Ramos. Present. Alderman Grayson,
Present.
Alderman Hoskins,
Present.
Alderman West.
Here, present. I need to start this, huh? Everybody's ready and waiting on me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to these Texans, one state under God, one and indivisible. Item 3.0, special presentations. We have none this evening. Item 4.0, council reports and requests. It's an opportunity for members of council to share community news. Mr. Bell, got anything?
I have nothing, thank you.
Mr. Hoskins?
Nothing.
Mr. Greason?
Nothing.
Ms. Ramos?
Nothing.
Mayor Pro Tem McCown?
No, sir, nothing.
There's just nothing going on in our city right now.
That's a good time.
That's a good thing. 5.0, public hearings, public comments. 5.1, public comments. This is the opportunity for the public to address council. Time is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Comments are to be directed to the city council, and dialogue with the audience is not permitted. Council members are prohibited by law from participating in discussion or deliberation of items not specifically identified on this agenda. Well, Ms. Becker, do we have something to say this evening?
My name's Mary Becker. I live at 202 Fairfield. And a couple of points that I wanted to talk about. One, I'm the recipient of a Seth grant and for the repair of my deck in my front yard and the ramp that I really needed to get down. And it was completed and it is very nice. And I want to thank all of you for that. Because without your assistance, it never would have happened. The other thing is that I would like to comment about the notice for the city council meeting. I thought I saw a sign up that said that there was a city council meeting today, but then it's not on the marquee. And I just want to tell you, I like having that marquee with it on the city council. I mean, about the city council meeting on there, because it helps to remind me to come and attend. Not to complain or, but just to be able to observe our city council in action. Thank you very much.
Okay, are you talking about this marquee? Okay, it's on the front sign, but
But with the sun, I know it's not supposed to be dialogue, but with the sun, you cannot see it.
let me see.
Down to. Thank you.
You hear that, Ms. Goodwin?
Report, Mayor.
Ms. Goodwin's in charge of that.
Okay.
All right. Moving on, item 6.1, city manager's report. Mr. Harrison.
Thank you, Matt. We'll start with the financial report. The cash position as of the last day of February of this year. The restricted debts at $32,461.32. Unused wastewater project funds is at $7. Utility deposit funds 93,666.06. The road repair taxes and tax pool is $312,031.12. Makes a total of $438,165.50. Of the general fund checking, we're at $352,822.38. Utility checking $255,261.11. And our tax pool that we hold our unencumbered funds in is at $1,016,320.71. This is a total of $1,624,404.20. And because a resident asked me last month after I read this, why I read this, and it's up on the board for our audit purposes, We have to prove that this report is given each month and it's recorded and I sign it, and that's how we keep track of it. That's the reason that I read it out. I know they're up there and I don't want to bore you with the numbers, but there's a reason we sit up there and read the same thing you've got in your packet.
And also, if you notice this month, we did not print the full packet. Waste of paper. I don't think anybody really used it, but online, well, except for Mr. Greason, but you look at it online anyway. So you have it before you get here. So that's why it's not in there. If you want one, Elaine can always print one for you, but it is online. The full report. And here's the municipal court report that we're tracking. Just so you see that we're still not in the hole. It's municipal. That's the only reason we track this, just to see if we're going in the hole, or right now we're a little bit, like I said last month, though, it's gonna stray. If you remember last month that we were like 40,000 difference. This month it's closed. It'll close. As long as we can break even, we'll be all right. All right. Any questions on the financials, Mr. Greason?
No, I don't have it.
All right. All right, moving on. Item 6.2, the monthly police report.
You've got the police report. I know if you have any questions specifically about anything that's on there. We had a couple of calls last month. That was a little bit out of the ordinary with some domestic violence. We don't see a lot of that in our city, but we had a couple of cases of it last month. We're attempting to file charges on both cases. We're waiting on the DA's office to do that. We're still trying to step up code enforcement. I rode around with Sergeant Tidwell for a good couple of hours today and pointed out several places in the city that need our attention. He's been training a lot the last month. He's trained almost constantly, trying to get some of the mandatory schools under his belt. Send him to an officer-involved scooting school. We'll never have that, hopefully, but we need to have one person. I went 15 years ago. We need to have someone that's up to date. So he's attending a lot of schools and has stepped back from code enforcement just a little bit, but we're going to get started on it again. Outside of that, it was a pretty normal month for us.
Mayor Pro Tem McCown, anything? No, sir. Ms. Ramos?
No.
Mr. Greason?
No.
Mr. Hoskins?
No.
Mr. Bell?
No, sir. Mayor, if you will, before we go further, I would like to bring up a few things that we did. I'll make it quick, but we did have first aid, CPR, and AED training for all the officers last month. Mrs. Goodman and Mrs. Stokes attended as well. We had it in this building so they could attend. And it was a good class. I didn't get to go, but everybody else went. We had one reserve that didn't go, but he's a paramedic, so he'll be fine without it already. We also ordered and placed de-choking devices in all of our units. We've never had those, and I've been seeing more and more advertisements about them. They're saving lives and they're not that expensive. So we bought the units that have the adult and the minor and the infant cups on them. So we placed those in all the cars. We placed Narcan nasal spray units in all the vehicles. And we had those at one time. They have a shelf life on them, and they'd all gotten old, but we've replaced them. We have brand new ones. We inventoried and audited all the AEDs and bought new leads. We have to have adult leads and child leads for those. They have a shelf life too. They don't last very long. Okay, and that's it for the police department.
Since this is a short meeting, why don't you go ahead and explain what we do and all that? Why are you doing all of this? So all the stuff in the police, every unit in the city has AEDs, anti-choke, we monitor the batteries. Why don't you explain why we do all that and what you're doing?
Yeah, there's a whole inventory on these vehicles. There's more stuff in these vehicles than you could ever imagine. They carry, we carry snake sticks, we carry dog catchers, the devices for catching loose dogs. Only problem is once you catch them, you got to do something with them. We don't have that component of it, but if we have a vicious dog, at least we can grab it and keep it at arm's length. AEDs are in all the cars. These summers are brutal on everything we have. We need a carport across the street to park our cars under when they're not being used. We've looked at that for ever since I've been here 14 years. But these AEDs are sensitive, so we try to keep them in boxes, in Rubbermaid boxes versus just laying in the back. It adds 1 second to getting it out. The AEDs also have the battery component when it's hot. They don't last long, so we only get a couple of years out of the batteries when they're supposed to last 3 to 5. And they're very expensive to replace. They're a couple of $100 a piece. I don't like refurbished batteries on those. It just seems like that's not where you want to save your money. We replace the leads ever so often. We have an audit checklist across the street where every once in a while we'll check it, turn them all on. Now they have a built-in system. They start beeping if the battery starts going dead, and you can't ignore it. It's one of those beeps that when it goes off that you want to fix it. So, but we manually check them anyway, a couple of times a year, or at least once a year, but a couple of times a year normally. And try to keep those stuffs up. The fentanyl, I know you've heard the fentanyl coming across the border. It's scary. I don't know if you ever paid attention to the numbers, but the fentanyl deaths in this country is just unreasonable. It's crazy. And we haven't had one yet, but just looking at the possibility, sooner or later, we'll probably have it.
Is that
So,
why you have the Narcan?
sir, that's why we got the Narcan. I didn't like the kind you inject. I really like the kind that's nasal. It's a whole lot easier to use. By the way, we've requested Narcan free through several public agencies, and we can't get it. And I finally had to go to Collin County EMS and fill out paperwork, and they sent it to us. I don't know if they realize we're in Harris County or not, but they sent us 24 of them. So we're pretty good to go right now. The training we have to do, or we should do every year anyway, and we try to do that. Oh,
Have you had occasion, have we had an occasion to use the AEDs?
yes, sir. We've had since I've been here, I know of 4 occasions that we've used it in 13 years.
Like we had one pretty recent.
We had one at Officer Hossie. I don't remember where it was, but we had one, and we had one at the park here a while back. We had one on Bayou Forest a couple of years ago, and they're worth their weight in gold when we need them, and they're easy to use. They're the ones that we buy are really easy to use. You can't shock somebody unless they need it. It'll tell you whether to shock them or not.
Yeah.
Have you looked at a cover for the vehicles this recently and see where would you put it anyhow?
We would just put it at the back where the cars park. We looked at that starting. I mean, we were looking at that as a budget item that got cut in 2012 when I first came. It was one of our dream things that we were going to do at the police department when the building was built. It was just, I mean, it's the city needs a lot of things, and we probably need a lot of things worse than we need that, but we do need it.
It extends the life of vehicles a lot.
Yeah, our paint jobs, though, on those black cars, our paint jobs take if you look at one of those, they take a beating, especially the Chevrolets. Their clear coat doesn't last nearly as well as the Fords. By the way, we do have our vehicle ordered. We ordered it in October, set for production in February. I checked with them last week and they hadn't started yet. But Morgan's Point's had one over there for 9 months. So we're hoping for the best on that this next few weeks.
Now, you mentioned domestic violence. Maybe other people don't know, but talk about our domestic violence officer training.
So each officer, the officers have to have 40 hours of training every 2 years. Most of it's mandated, so you don't have any trouble filling up that 40 hours, but there are several courses you have to take. Some of it is like CIT, which is an intervention type training. And then we have Officer Hossie and myself actually have we're actually mental health officers, it helps a lot with domestic, because a lot of domestic disturbances arise from mental health issues as well. But it's really difficult. And without giving the address, I'll tell you that one we had last week, we no more than got everything submitted to the DA. By the way, I'll tell that story, Mayor, but the DA's office. This lady's husband beat her up. They've been together several years. And he beat her up pretty good. And she's got a kid that goes to school and tells a nurse. So we get sent over there. We already been over there the night before. We'll go over there. So Officer Reed goes downtown last weekend to secure a warrant for the guy. And the DA's office refuses charges because she didn't identify him through a photograph. This is the guy she lives with and married to. So that's what we deal with at the DA's office.
They had to fax a copy of the driver's license and get her to identify it from that.
And I'm sure that Councilman McCowan can tell you that dealing with the DA's office is, and I try not to be too harsh on them. I got to work with them, but it is ridiculous sometimes. Like that's ridiculous. Remember a couple of years ago, we had a trailer theft where somebody watched them steal the trailer and they dropped charges because we didn't have probable cause to stop the vehicle on traffic. It seemed like there's one more police related thing, but the domestic violence is the biggest obstacle we face is the victim will come back a day or two later and not want to file. And that's the case on this latest one. She called me Friday and doesn't want to file charges now. So, I hate to say we wasted, but the truth of the matter is we wasted hours and hours and hours going and writing reports and taking supplements and trying to get EMS records and things like that, and then go to the DA's office. All that's for nothing if they go down there and don't want to file anymore. It becomes pretty frustrating, but it's with the domestic violence world, that's not uncommon.
Yeah, and I've heard that's big reason for that is they wind up letting them out and they go back and beat them up worse. And that's what they're afraid of.
I think that's some of it, but I think also, like in this particular case, she doesn't want him to lose his job. He's the family provider and he'll lose his job if he gets up.
She won't have any.
It's a vicious circle. I'll just say that. It really is a vicious circle.
The reason I bring all this up is that, domestic violence is obviously a very difficult situation for our officers. And all the training that Troy has done, and a higher level of training than the other communities around us require. And I think that all contributes to a Shoreacres Police Department that we can all be very proud of. Thank you, Troy.
Absolutely. And I'll also share, we never have officers that don't seek the training. When we offer to give it to them, offer to have them, and we have a very small training budget, but they always, every officer has a specialty. Westall, he likes DWIs. So we're sending him to SFST schools. He's already in FSST, but he's got to be, I think he's already worked 3 DWIs this year or since he's been here. He's been here less than a year. That's more than most everybody else has worked in a year. They're difficult. DWIs are difficult. You think domestic violence is tough. DWIs are even more difficult to work.
It all contributes to keeping our streets safe. All right, moving on to the monthly public department works report.
Okay, you've got that report too. The leaks have gone down, thank goodness. However, and Mayor, I'm guessing we have a special item for the sewer.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll wait for the sewer, but I will share with you that we've seen the number of water leaks go down just because it's the time of year where the ground's not shifting quite as much. We hadn't had rain in a while, but we really haven't seen the major water issues that we've had for the past 12 or 15 months. So hopefully we're supposed to get some rain, I think this weekend, Friday or Saturday. And we can keep those from moving around and we'll keep those down. We are having a few, but not anything like we were 6 months ago.
Any questions on this report? All right.
Mayor, I'd also in this place, if I could, because there's really no other place to put it in here. Our CRS audit that we just went through, the community rating system audit, we've got the preliminary draft back. And if everything sticks like it is, and I think it will, we'll be moving from an 8 to a 7, which is a step up. It's a progress. And this is a tough audit. And that means that our residents will go from a 10% discount on their flood insurance to a 15% discount. So it's pretty substantial. And Elaine and Bernie and Diane, there wasn't an office person here, including Latney, that didn't participate. They played just as big a role as I did in this. And we also hire a consultant, Debbie Vasek, who's very knowledgeable. She knows how to get the points. So this is truly a group effort. And they will, when this is secured and it's finalized, they will come down and make a proclamation to the city and give us a plaque or something indicating that we made the adjustment. We moved up 5 years ago from a 9 to an 8. Now we moved from an 8 to a 7. So this is partly because you guys passed a really good building code a few months ago where we standardized the city under one building code for the most part. And that really helped us get the points.
Debbie was here if you remember Debbie.
Yeah.
How far can it drop?
Well, you can get all the way to a 45% savings. We'll never be able to do that, obviously, but
Never say never.
I'll share this with you. I didn't know this.
The 6 next year.
It'd take 5 years, but yes, sir. NFIP, the National Flood Insurance Program, I didn't know this. I learned something because I went to one of these classes to get ready for this audit. There's actually a city in Oklahoma that their city refused to participate and refused to give them the items they needed, and they would not insure one house in that entire city, one house or one business in that entire city. They pulled the whole NFIP out of that city until they complied. And that was a city on a river that had a lot of issues. So they take it serious, and they will drive around at night. We have, when we build new houses, when we turn in plans and build new houses, when they get a certificate of occupancy, one of the things we have to do is we have to get them to sign a agreement saying that they will not convert anything downstairs to living spaces. These people will drive around at night looking for TVs downstairs and get out and knock on their door and see if they've converted their downstairs to living space.
What's considered a living space? Is there?
You shouldn't have a TV downstairs, I guess, because that's what they look for. What living space, obviously, I mean, there's a difference of opinion on it. I'm told you can't even put a shower down there. But I don't think they're going to shut you down for a shower because, you know, some people just run a garden hose and build a make-do shower. But you sure can't convert walls and put gas appliances and electrical appliances.
Beds and sofas and stuff
Yes,
like that.
that's when you start getting into trouble.
All right. Moving on, we'll go to 7.0 business, item 7.1 minutes from last meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
A motion from Mr. Hoskins. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Ms. Ramos. Got a chance to review them? Any changes? Mr. Bell, anything?
Not that I can think of.
Mr. Hoskins?
Nope.
Mr. Greasy?
Nope.
Ms. Ramos?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem McCown?
No, sir.
All those in favor of approving the minutes from February 12, 2024, say aye.
Aye.
And they're approved unanimously. Moving on, item 7.2. Ordinance 2024-05-01, canceling the May 2024 election. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve ordinance 2024-5-01.
A motion from Mr. Hoskins. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. McCown. Okay, as we know, no one filed. And here is you're in your packet, you have a card copy of this, but here's a statement from Ms. Goodman stating that no person applied for a write-in candidacy as well. That's a legal requirement we have to do. She has to give you. So she has given that to you. Pursuant to that, all in favor of canceling the 2024-05-01 election and electing, in effect, Mayor David Jennings, Alderman at Large Paul Greason, and Alderman at Large Wes Bell, say aye.
Aye.
And it passes unanimously. Moving on, item 7.3, ordinance 2024-05-02, the budget amendment sewer collapse. Providing for the allocation of budgeted expenditures for the emergency repair of a collapsed sewer main line. Do I have a motion to consider?
Motion to consider, sir.
I have a motion from Mr. McCown. Do I have a second? I have a second from Ms. Ramos. Okay, Mr. Harrison, you want to explain what happened here? And I'll go into the numbers.
Sure. So several weeks ago, we had some complaints about a sewer smell on Meadowlawn. We investigated, we found a small sewer collapse on the other end of Meadowlawn in the 200 blocks. That was a problem we thought at the time. A week or so later, the same resident notified us that she could still smell sewer. So I drove out and went to the area of Sunrise and Meadowlawn. And sure enough, it was pretty stout. So we knew we had a problem. So we had someone come out and TV it. They went in the manhole that's located. There's two manholes really close together, but the one that's on Meadowlawn, just east of Sunrise, we put the camera in there and went west. You remember we had a couple of years ago, we had a construction company that came in and we replaced all the main sewer lines in the backyards between Westview and Sunrise. We brand new 8-inch line. This is a line that ties into that line. It's one of the few lines that we have that run to that backyard line. So about 100, I forget exactly the footage, but just over 100 feet in, we found a major sewer collapse it was caved in on top of itself. So to do that, we had to have a Vector truck, which is a big vacuum truck, come in and get down in the line and take all the sewer out to where the TV camera can go. That vacuum truck is about $2,000 to do that. And they were going to have to come out once every 2, maybe 3 days. So we were needed to do something pretty quick so we didn't waste the residents' money. So I talked with the mayor. We looked at the situation. There should have been 3 options. A point repair, we just dig up where the break is and fix that, remove 10 foot, fix it and fill in the hole, put grass back, and we're fine. This was right next to a resident's house, almost right under the eave. It was so close. And so digging the hole wasn't going to work. Nobody would do that. Also, I worked with Kerry Lackey and David Sutton through this as well. They have a lot more experience than I do. We could have slip lined it. It would have been a little bit less expensive, but we would have given up an inch on an 8-inch line, and neither one of them felt like that was a good idea. So the last thing we could do was pipe burst it. So we pipe bursted it from manhole to manhole. That way there was no repair in the concrete. Concrete repair gets very expensive. And also there was no main lines, no service lines to disconnect from the houses. So we just took it from that manhole to the next manhole in the backyard of 3312 Westview. And now it's fixed. And we've TV'd it afterwards. I got those results Saturday, and it looks fine. There's no leaks, and it looks like everything's running smooth.
As Mr. Harrison was saying, it was an emergency. That we couldn't wait for this council meeting for you to actually approve that expenditure. And so using his authority, we just decided to go ahead with that. But tonight you have a budget amendment to pay for that. And in your packet is a detailed breakdown. On the screen is the actual cost and where the budget goes. We obviously didn't budget for anything. It goes into street and drainage capital account for a total of $64,710. And you can see the breakdown if you need that on your in your packet. But it was quite a mess, and the smell was really, really bad. And so it wasn't really an option not to fix it. And it really wasn't a good idea to keep vacuuming it out until you could approve it beforehand, because that would take another 2 weeks. So that was a decision that was made. So your job tonight is to approve the budget expenditure. Any questions? Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of Exhibit A, Budget Amendment 2024-01 in the amount of $64,710, say aye. Aye. And the measure passes unanimously. Moving on, item 7.4. Ordinance 2024-05-03, Budget Amendment resurfacing Baywood Street, providing for the allocation of budgeted capital expenditures to fund the resurfacing of Baywood Street from Sunrise to Miramar. Do I have a motion?
To approve ordinance 2024-503.
A motion from Mr. Hoskins. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mayor Pro Tem McCown. Okay, this is, you already know about this because we talked about it the last meeting. And you approved the expenditure with some overage. I think we ended up with a $32,000, about a 15% overage. We found, well, I'll let Mr. Howard tell you what we found, because I was in the hospital. So go ahead.
Well, we knew we were going to find some things under Baywood. It was in too bad a shape not to have some issues. We found more than we thought. There was more damage to the base than what they had planned for and what they had figured out. So this overage is just square yards that they had to dig up and place the 8-inch the 8-inch base back down. So that's what this overage is. Like the mayor said, it's about 15%, and we kind of talked about maybe a 20% what we expected. So this fell in line with what we thought. We just didn't ask for it the first time. But I don't know if y'all seen the road or not. It's pretty nice road on it. I know.
Yeah, they're gonna want speed bumps.
Yeah.
No, it's nice, and the only thing is we've had a lot of asphalt get tracked back up on the other roads back, and, are they gonna stripe the roads also?
No,
We got it.
well, that road's not striped. None of our roads are really striped except for Shoreacres Boulevard this way. But, anytime you have a project like this, you go LaPorte, or they just did Bay Area Boulevard out here, and it's the same way. I don't think you can get, Felicia may be able to answer that better from a construction standpoint, but I think.
You're not running black marks?
Well, just the tracking of it.
Yeah, the track.
It's every time I've ever seen a road rebuilt, it's done that. I don't think there's
One
any.
of the good things about it is the road's it's a foot wider now.
It is, and that's part of the overages. I asked them to go, the mayor mentioned to me, and it was a good catch on his part, but to make sure that we're going out to not where the road is today or where it was 3 weeks ago, but go back to where it was. So they surveyed it and they found, not this much, but maybe this much on each side. And we put it back to the original width. So it's a little bit wider. Now, this is not really for tonight, but we will. We had, the biggest problem we had was those storm drains were collapsed that we had to replace. So that'll be for another meeting to explain why we're over budget probably, but that is something that was an emergency. We couldn't put that good road back over a collapsed storm drain. But we can talk about that later.
Sure, the yacht club members like it. Until they paid for it, probably.
I've come to that conclusion. The people there's something about them that they're just not happy.
Yeah, this is a start. It is a nice road though.
Okay, and you can find the invoice for it. It's in your packet. The invoice is behind the budget amendments. So on the screen, we'll see that's the total cost and where it's going. It actually goes into the same capital account, but we knew that we were going to do this, but we didn't budget for it because we didn't have the quotes at the time, but we knew it was coming. So this is, it's in line with what we discussed during the budget season. We just waited. So any questions about the amount at all?
This amount includes the extra work it was done.
That's the final, that's the invoice amount. The invoice is in your packet. Yes, that's the invoice amount. And I think they did a pretty good job. I think Troy had a little bit of difficulty working with them on a few things, but overall, he made it through. And so the road looks good and it looks stable. And we're hopeful that it'll last for many, many years. Cross fingers. All right. So all those in favor, go back to that page real quick. All those in favor of adopting budget amendment 2024-02 in the amount of $249,909.81, say aye.
Aye.
And it passes unanimously. Moving on. Item 7.5, ordinance 2024-05-04, budget amendment for employee health insurance, providing for the increase of budgeted health insurance expenditures. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Have a motion from Ms. Ramos. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is that Ron?
Yes.
I have a second from Mr. Hoskins. All right, well, we did the best we could during budgeting season, Troy. The health insurance is crazy. On the screen and in your packet are the health insurance costs of what we budgeted and what it is. And you will see a massive increase. We budgeted $12,953.76 per employee. And that is an increase. That was an increase from $9,600 last year. Unfortunately, when TML came through, they said the total increase was 30% above what we'd already budgeted. So our health and life insurance now per employee, per full-time employee is 16,842.65. So it went from 12,953 to 16,842 this year over our budgeted amount. So it's about 40% above last year. I asked Ms. Goodman at length about our policy. I've asked Troy in the past, we've talked about it. And apparently the policy is very good. And so, we don't want the employees to lose that. Going forward, I will be asking Troy to look at costs if we can go into the exchange market and see what we can find there for the next budget year. But for this budget year, we're gonna have to increase it, otherwise you're gonna have a shortfall coming at the end of the year, and you're gonna be blindsided. So we want to bring this up now and get it behind us. So that's the reason for the increase. You guys know healthcare costs have increased about across the board since they passed national healthcare way back when. And so we'll try to do something about it for next budget year. I don't know that we'll be able to do anything about it because apparently the cost of this plan is really not out of line with the market. And this, of course, is the shared plan with all municipalities. We go through TML for this. We have an older staff. I'm not saying you're old, Elaine. Just saying we have an older staff now. We've had some, and because it's a municipal thing, it's a shared system. And so we had some major stuff in the last year with our employees that had to be handled. And so that all contributed to the increase. And so that's where we stand. And that's what we're asking you tonight is to go ahead and approve this now so you're not blindsided by it. So y'all talk about it. Please talk about it a little bit.
That doesn't look unreasonable. When we divide the number of employees that we've got, what's the exact number that we have? It's gotta be.
6, 10, 10, 11.
I mean,
Employees?
15,000 per
11.
year.
11.
11, okay, so it's still under 15,000 a year. If you go out and look at what you would pay fully, that's not bad. It's not unreasonable. I mean, because, I've actually been having a look at that, given that I'm getting closer to retirement and seeing what all the benefits are and how that works and what COBRA would cost, and it cost me more for me to go through a COBRA to pay for it than what we're paying for each employee.
Well, I think we've got, just as a side note, I think we only have one person on staff that covers his wife and children, and he pays $2,200 a month out of pocket after what the city pays. That's where the rough part is. Can't do anything about that.
Right.
But that's the heartache with the plan that we have.
Right, yeah, you've got the families too, and that does cost quite a considerable amount more. We don't really have a choice here, but to vote in favor of this anyway. But I mean, if we can find something that gives the same kind of coverage and is less expensive, it's probably worth looking at, but I just don't see that happening.
Yes, Mayor McKillop.
One of the things that we're a small city, but the main thing we have to do is take care of all of our employees. And being in Harris County, and as small as we are, there are so many other cities that probably do have better insurance plans than us. So everything that we can do to keep what we have, that's what we need to do. Because we have a good staff, good police officers, good office help. So we're in the best shape we've been in a long time. So I think we ought to just, understand it's part of reality.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I think being in part of that bigger pool is helping keep that cost down as well.
One of the things, we have a very good, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if we do find something cheaper, it needs to at least give the same benefits that this plan currently gives them. I wouldn't want to cut that down at all.
Yeah. One of the things that we're blessed with at this point in time is I think I know that we have the best city staff since I've been involved in this thing since 2015. And one of the things that leads to is better engagement with all of our vendors and all of our services and stuff. And Ms. Goodman has actually gone out and talked, and we talked to our insurance provider, TML, but they have an arm of them, the health insurance part. And she's actually gone and made inquiries and talked at length with them. And she has discovered that there are features of the program that our employees are not using that cuts their costs further, their deductible wise. And so because of that, I think one of the bills one of our employees had, instead of out of pocket being about $3,000, it was $250. And before though, they would have paid that 3,000. And so our insurance is actually pretty good, but she is having them come in April,
Yes, sir.
in April for a training session with our employees to teach them all the benefits that they really do have. And so I think that's part of having a good staff. And now we've had Elaine for a little while, and Diane's coming on, and Bernie's been there a couple of years. So we have a very, very good staff upstairs. And so we're learning a lot, we're gaining a lot, and I just couldn't be happier right now. So anyway, I don't know why I said all that, but all those in favor of approving budget amendment 2024-03 in the amount of to raise the amount of health insurance from 116,583.84 to 151,583.84, say aye.
Aye.
The measure is approved unanimously. Item 7.6, a review of the 2023-2024 SIF grant funding. Do I have a motion to discuss?
I move to discuss.
I have a motion from Mr. Hoskins. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Greason. Okay, I just wanted to recap our, we received $50,000 from Seth in December of 2022 we started spending it in 2023. And in your packet, you will find the actual cost of these projects. But here's what we were able to do. I mean, we did a lot with that $50,000, to be honest. I think that should we do it again in the future, we probably need to lower that because a couple of people got 10 grand. And so that sort of limited the amount or the number, a quantity of people that could be using. Maybe we lower it to 75 or something like that. But for what we did, we had 15 projects and everything from emergencies to fences, sheds, termite damage. We removed a tree that was threatening to split a house in half. And these were all for and so I think that we did well. And by turning it over to you guys and keeping me out of it, I think we did just fine. And y'all did a great job of, on this last one, Ms. Becker mentioned that she was a recipient, so I'll go ahead and talk about that one. But that was handled by Mr. Bell and Mr. Greason. Went out and talked with her, found out what she needed, and came back to me. And because of the way y'all had discussed it in the previous meeting, we all decided, let's do it. And we knew you would be in favor of it, and especially with the solid representation from Mr. Bell and Mr. Greason. So I appreciate y'all going out there and doing that. And it's really a relief for me not to have to be directly involved in that stuff. So do we have any thoughts on the Seth grant process or the number or anything? Mr. McCann,
I do agree
Mr.
that
Bell.
there might be a cap, a maximum on the amount. Because, see, one person got $267 and you got 8,000, 9,000, 10,000. I like to see it spread a little thinner and benefit more people.
Yeah.
Is that legal or
Oh,
doable?
absolutely. Yeah, the council set the rule and we sort of informally set a cap of $10,000. I think we set a cap of 5,000 and somehow it jumped to 10. And so
It had a cap to begin with?
well, we talked about it. And if you remember when we first, I don't think you were on the council when we first went up. Yeah, you were not here. And so we sort of informally decided 5,000. And then that sort of somehow got moved up to 10 because we weren't getting any people applying. And so council just decided to move it up to 10.
And actually we did it on a case by case, and that one that got 10,000, his house was in such bad shape.
Oh, yeah.
From the termites, it's lucky it didn't implode. So, we stepped up and did what we should do, and we did it the right way. So it should be always case by case, period. You could put a limit on it, but I still think, if it's a severe case and they need super help and they're in the upper age bracket, I think we need to try to do everything that we can to help them.
Mr. Hoskins, do you got any comments?
I actually agree with what Mr. McCown just said, and that is, it should be a case by case. If it's really something super, super dangerous, kind of like at the street repair, the sewer repair, You know, where we just spent a ton of money on that. I mean, that needed to be done. And there's other things that, you know, may not be as critical. Where we don't need to go the full amount. So I mean, I agree with Mr. McCallum, case by case is best, but we do have to have a cap at some point. But we can discuss that when we get the next,
Yeah.
which we don't know when that's
We
coming.
don't know when it's gonna be. It comes every 2 years, it seems like, so. Maybe we'll get some more next year. Recent, any thoughts?
No, everything's pretty much said, and I agree, you know, we started out with a kind of a cap of where we wanted to go to try and benefit as many people in the community as we could. And we wanted to look at elderly people or people that didn't have the ability and means to take care of themselves, and I think we did pretty good overall.
I do too. Ms. Ramos,
I'm good with the decisions.
Mr. Pound, anything else?
Only thing I can say is I'm very proud of the city council that we have, and I enjoy working with all of y'all because we always, even though we disagree sometimes, it's okay, but we all get along. So it hasn't always been that way here. So it is very,
No, it hasn't. All right, moving on. Item 7.7, a second regular meeting. The fourth Monday, it'll be the March the 25th. Mr. Harrison, do you see a need for a meeting?
No, sir.
Ms. Goodman,
No, sir.
council? Hearing nothing, that item dies. Item 8.0 adjournment. Do I have a motion?
motion.
Have a second?
Second.
A motion from Mr. McCown, a second from Mr. Hoskins. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned as of 6:47 PM. Thank you for coming, Ms. Becker.